Hey Pod Squad, welcome to this week's episode. I am coming to you from my very messy bedroom because life is messy. I've been pretty busy over here with doing some wedding planning and just been a bit of a road warrior in this first quarter of the year. I tell you, when I kind of transitioned to a new role with my company about 5 years ago at this point, they had shared with me, your job is going to be up to 75% travel. And I don't think I quite understood what that meant at the time. But I do love the travel part of my job. It's just life is going to be a little bit messy here and there, and that's okay. So I'm coming to you a little messier than usual today if you're on YouTube, but bear with me. Packing up and heading to Colorado tomorrow for work, off to Texas the following week for work. And I was like peering over at my mic and I was like, nah, I need a break from packing because I am not a fan of packing. I don't know if anybody loves to pack. Come help me. It's my biggest struggle. Maybe even more so than packing is unpacking is probably my very least favorite, but I digress. I'm excited to continue on this, I keep calling it beginning of the year journey, and it's now March, but if I'm being honest, I'm the girl that's still writing 2021 on any paper or form that I'm given. So I don't know if anybody's like me and still feels like it's 2021, but it's 2022, and it's actually emerging into Q2 of 2022. So we're going to continue on with a couple more topics as we explore this new best version of ourselves we want to enter this year with. So kind of building off of the topics we've explored over the course of the last several weeks. This week is going to be, last week we talked about kind of auditing your time. And this week I want to talk about auditing your environment and more specifically the people in it. And I'm purposefully wearing my not sorry hat today to manifest unapologetic Audrey as I kick this episode off, because those of you who know me are not surprised to hear that I am a people pleaser. And the thought of auditing the people around you and maybe making decisions that could hurt the feelings of other people or could confuse the other people, or I'm a person that really struggles with that. So maybe you're like me, or maybe you're like, no, Audrey, I cut the people out that don't deserve to be there on the regular. And that's great too. But really today's episode is not just focusing on identifying the people that maybe aren't helping you get closer to what you want. Yes, that's very important, but it's more so specific and tangible about how you identify who exactly needs to be around you to help you emerge as your best self. What types of people do you need in your circle? And maybe where are you lacking? And how can you seek out opportunities to fill in those gaps where they might exist for you? So that's really the focus of today's episode, is identifying the top people, because you do become the people you surround yourself with, whether you realize it or not, whether you like it or not. So that's what we're going to explore today. We're also going to talk a little bit about how are you in the wrong room? I think sometimes we, life chugs along and we don't realize, and we kind of look up and look around us and say, I'm in the same room I was 3 years ago. Or, man, am I the smartest in the room? Am I the most put together in the room? Am I the most successful in the room? Am I the most athletic in the room? Am I the most fill in the blank in the room? And if you are, you're in the wrong room, because it's likely that you're not being pushed to new heights if there's not somebody around you that you're being exposed to what more you could achieve, or what more you could even start to imagine is possible for you. So I want that for each and every one of you. So I want us to take this time to use some of the tips I'm going to be sharing today to understand who needs to be around me for me to be my most successful best self, and where are the opportunities to expand upon that. Thank you so much for tuning in, and enjoy.
One of the things that we kind of focused on last week was the fact that the bad news is time flies, but the good news is that you're the pilot. And when I heard that quote, my mind was blown, because truly we do have control over how we use that time. Okay, so we're going to build off of that this week into a topic that I am very excited to share with you on the environment around us in the company that we keep. So I posted a quote earlier in the week from Tony Robbins, and it was, "Who you spend time with is who you become." What and who you surround yourself with has such great power. And hopefully that power is being used for good and not evil. So in your environment and in your surroundings, in the company that you keep, are those things guiding you, or are they keeping you from becoming the person that you want to be? So we found the time last week and we started to exercise and practice how we're utilizing that time. And we're going to get into some habits here in the next few weeks of things that we can be doing during that time to be more productive, to reach those goals that we're setting for ourselves this year. So it's not just how we're spending our time, it's who we're spending our time with. Now, there are so many places I contemplated going on this episode, and I decided not to make it an identify the toxic people in your life workshop. I think we all know very well who those people are that are not serving you. We do need to take the time to, periodically consider that, but I didn't want to emphasize and focus on that today. But I did want to explore is identifying the types of people that are going to help lift you up to new heights, and also give you some tactics on how to identify gaps in the company you keep and how to fill those gaps. So I will do this with 2 anecdotes. And the first one comes from my personal development professional, one of my favorites. And I actually haven't shared her with you all yet, and her name is Stacy Flowers. And I had the pleasure of going to a conference where Stacy was a keynote speaker at the conference. She's a certifiable badass, and she's faced many trials in her upbringing and her young adult life, and decidedly she made the decision and she put the practice to come out on top. So the keynote that she gave actually went on to be a TED Talk, or previously was a TED Talk, and I will include it in the show notes. But I wanted to pull out a couple of great things that she shared, I made note of, and I've tried to keep in mind as I've progressed through the last year since hearing that great bit of advice. She talked about how relationships have the deepest impact, the deepest level of impact on our happiness. And the quote that she really alluded to from Jim Rohn, and it is, "You're the average of the 5 people you choose to associate with most, because it is a choice who you're picking to spend your time with." So Stacy characterized these 5 people that you should have in your life as the cheerleader, the mentor, the coach, the friend, and the peer. So she started with the cheerleader, and she gave the cheerleader the thumbs up. As you go through, you'll notice the hand gestures I'm giving, if you're watching on the YouTube, are on purpose. So she gives the cheerleader the thumbs up. The cheerleader is your number 1 fan, pumps you up, gasses you up, and gets you back on track, helps to get you unstuck, and gives you those encouraging words. If you're like me, your mom is your number 1 fan. Okay, so that's the cheerleader. Next, she pointed out the mentor. The mentor points you in the right direction. A mentor can be formal or informal. So when you think about mentors, you could have plenty of folks that are online that help guide you towards the mindset you want to have, or help guide you towards the financial success that you want to have. So that would be your mentor, okay? Then we have the coach. And I'm not going to give this finger alone because it is the middle finger. This is the middle finger, and the coach is meant to make you a little uncomfortable so that you can maximize your potential, okay? So think of growing up in your childhood, that coach that you had that really saw your potential and pushed you beyond limits that you couldn't even see yourself. That is characterized as the coach. So next, that brings us to the friend, and the friend is the ring finger. Your friend stays connected to your heart. So your friends know your truest heart desires, your passion, what lights you up, what sets you on fire. Sets your heart on fire, not sets you on fire. It's early, okay? So that is your ring finger, and that is your friends. Connected to your truest passions and desires. Next, we have our pinky finger. And our pinky finger is our peer. So what's different from friend to peers is that our peers are perhaps connected to our industry or perhaps connected to our social circles and situations. So it might be a little bit more industry-based the way that you look at it. So your peers will keep your head in the game. Okay, so your peers are people that are connected more so to your career or to your day-to-day work, your colleagues, people like that keep you connected to that. Keep your head in the game that you're in. So I'll give you an example. My sister and I connect all the time about all things. She's my best friend, but we connect about, personal situations. We connect about how we miss each other. We can't wait to see each other. We connect about our passions, our purpose, and all of that. But really, when you think about my sister and I's relationship, she works in a very different field than I do. So when we talk about industry-related things or career-related things, I can pump her up and hope to inspire and give her some optimism hacks, and she does the same for me. But when it comes to actually knowing the day-to-day of what I do and the day-to-day of what she does, we don't quite connect on that level. So it's so important to make sure we have those folks that are our peers that can keep our head in the game that we're in as well. So what I encourage you to do is write all of these 5 things down. So cheerleader, mentor, coach, friend, and peer. Of the company you keep, where do the folks reside? You can have more than one, so don't think you've got to have 5 people and that's all you can have, but these are the 5 types of people that you want to make sure you have. And identify where your gaps are. Personally, I often find that my gaps are in the coach and mentor categories, so that's where I've really focused in this year specifically. And I'll share some tips at the end of how to fill those gaps. But that's the first anecdote, is really understanding those 5 types of people and deciding where you need to grow, okay? All right, and the next challenge or the next anecdote that I want to share with you is an anecdote of my own. And I like to call it, it's time to farm up. And you might be thinking, level up? Yes, level up the company you keep. But I'm going to share it in an anecdote that resonates with me that might resonate with you as well. It comes with a little storytelling, and I'll be honest, my mom recently shared with me that she loves when I share my ball is life stories and some of my past athletic situations. So, and to be honest, my mom is a saint like Dorothy Mantooth, so I'm going to oblige, and I got to deliver. So if you grew up in a sports family, it is likely that you've heard the term farming up. It was a common one in my household. The term farm out is where it originated, and it's to send an athlete to a farm team. And I'll elaborate. And here's actually a fun fact. A farm team originated when a joke was passed around by major league players in the 1930s. The St. Louis Cardinals GM, Branch Rickey, formalized the minor league feeder system, and teams in small towns were growing players down on the farm like corn. I thought that was funny. So at our league growing up, you had several brackets of play, 8 and under 10 and under 14, etc. And as a young growing player on the softball diamond, we were allowed to farm up as needed. If my sister's team was down a player, I could suit up and join them for a game or for an entire tournament, playing out of my league, if you will. And the dream that I had, which led to this recollection, which led to this whole notion that I'm sharing, got me thinking, are there areas of your life that you could be farming up or playing beyond your league? Now, there's a lot of literature, a lot of fun quotes, a lot of thought-provoking tweets or memes out there, a lot of great songs too, Sierra, to level up your company. I know I'd shared a book that I read earlier this year, which was called High Performance Habits, and he had a section, Brendan Burchard, on how extraordinary people become that way. And he writes about the practice of leveling up your squad and how to build what you need. Have you ever heard the quote, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room? Several variations of this has been quoted by many successful leaders, entrepreneurs. Do you ever find that you're in the wrong room? Sure, it feels comfortable, but where are you going? Are you stuck in cruise control? Let's get out of that. So thinking about those 5 types of people that you want to have in your life, and also thinking about the whole essence of if I'm the smartest or the toughest or the most athletic or the most successful in the room, maybe I need to find somebody to put in the mix that challenges me a little bit more and not get too comfortable with where I'm sitting. So what I've found myself lately doing is really diving into a lot of literature, a lot of books, a lot of influencers that I follow on social media that have the mindset and have the success that I want to have. So I feel lately that I have really been putting a lot of focus and emphasis on the mindset that I want to have, and really surrounding at least the media I consume, and of course the people I surround myself with match up with that very nicely, and that mindset piece of how I want to think and how I want to behave to be able to produce the results that I want to get. And speaking of this farming up, leveling up mentality, one of the ways that I took this recently was time hop came up actually. I first really started getting into running 6 years ago. And I previously was not a runner, was an athlete, was, athletic, but could not think about running more than a mile without stopping. And I, found a friend. She encouraged me to run a half marathon. And since then, I really have enjoyed the community, the camaraderie, the competition, and the challenge that is racing. So I found myself recently over the last year kind of falling off of that mentality and that challenge of pushing my limits and seeing what I'm capable of doing. And part of that was I thought 2020 was going to be the year that I'd run my first marathon. All races are canceled. I kind of made the excuse that, okay, I can't run without a race. That is false. You can get out and lace up and run wherever you are. It's a mental thing. So I, was introduced to this new friend that has run several marathons. She's run some half Ironmans, and she asked me if I wanted to be her running partner. And I'm like, shoot, I haven't ran more than 2 miles in a minute. But I kind of looked back to this framework, and I said, I need to level up in this area. I need to farm up out of my league. I need to run with somebody who's been there, done that. And we've now spent a couple of weeks, Anna and I, running, and it's been a really great challenge for me. So that's an area of my life that I've leveled up, because if the company you keep is not challenging you to reach new heights, or not is sparking that fire or reminding you of something that you wanted to accomplish that's maybe collected dust, you're going to have a hard time making that happen. So shout out to Anna. She's helped me level up over the last few weeks. And think of an area in your life where you're looking to level up. Do you know somebody in your community that can help you do that? So some takeaways that I wanted to share to close out this episode today is we talked about those 5 folks that you want to have in your corner. We also talked about just the element of leveling up your company that you keep in the areas that you want to stretch and reach for more. So I want you to think about, where do some of those stretch goals reside for you? Where are some of the places that you really want to bust out of that comfort zone and make some magic happen? So when thinking about that, first I want you to ask yourself, who has done what you were aiming to do? Who has done something that aligns with your purpose? Is it somebody at your workplace? Is it your community? Is it somebody at a local charity? Is it somebody on social media, or maybe even another social setting? So think about who has done what you're trying to do. Next thing I want you to do is, at your workplace, inquire. At your community, at your church, ask if there's any sort of formal mentorship or coaching program. I find that those 2 of the 5 that I mentioned Stacy had shared with us, coaching and mentoring, tend to be 2 of the most common gaps. So I would reach out, ask if that type of program exists. Don't be discouraged if a mentor program doesn't exist. If there is an influencer that you follow on social media or some of the various platforms, they might have a coaching or mentoring program that you can subscribe to. That's actually how I got started with, I mentioned Brendon Burchard's book, and he had this coaching program, and I just finished my 12 weeks, and it was so very helpful. So folks like Brendon, Jay Shetty, Rachel Hollis are a few that I follow, and they all have their very own virtual coaching program. or if now's not the time that you're able to spend money on something like that. You can find a budget-friendly or a free route. So you don't always have to pay money to find. There's so many great free resources out there. There's YouTube channels. Man, there's so much. Podcasts. I also recommend attending events related to the field or arena that you're trying to grow in. There's so many virtual events lately. In these events, you can be connected to people that are doing the things you aspire to do. Ask them how they do it. Take notes and keep in touch. You can always identify a mentor that would be a perfect fit for you and ask them too. Don't be shy. Mentors don't always have to be a formal exchange. And it's also likely that you have several other influencers that you see as mentors. But make sure those people that you see as mentors are pointing you in the right direction that you want to go.
I hope you enjoyed this week's episode, and I hope you found something useful in those 5 types of people that you should have around you and understanding where you might have a gap. And I also hope that you've started to think about what room you're in and what room you might be missing. What room might be waiting for you at the other side of this comfort zone that you maybe have found for yourself. It's so important to regularly feel uncomfortable, to regularly feel out of place, like you don't belong. And I know that sounds counterproductive, but you know what I mean. It is a very good thing when you feel silly because you are like, what am I doing here? Because you grow. That's where you grow. There's so many times in my career where I have entered a room to train a group of people that I'm like, who do I think I am to be in this room? What can I lend these people? But once I got out of my own way and maybe fumbled through a little bit of it, at the other side, you have so much to offer the world. You have so much to offer this new room that's waiting for you. And if you're stuck, I feel you and I understand, and we're all there sometimes. But really challenge yourself to open up the possibilities to a new room. And remember, just like when we talked about in last episode, you're the pilot of your time. You're the pilot of who you're surrounding yourself with too. It's so often that we don't realize the things that we're so frustrated by, or the things that we, vent about. It's like we made a choice to be in that position. We made a choice to enter that social setting or be in that social circle and go through the motions perhaps for too long, but not anymore. Not anymore. Make the choice that's going to suit you and be unapologetic about it. Be a nice person. Don't be a jerk about it, but be unapologetic about it. Do what you need to do. Be around who you need to be around, because it is a choice that you're making of who you're surrounding yourself with. All right. So hopefully you got a couple good nuggets to take away and apply today. And I'm rooting for you all. I really am. I hope that you're enjoying your year so far. If you've had some hiccups or some roadblocks, it's okay. Keep chugging along. Keep trying. It's going to pay off. You're worth it. And if anybody hasn't told you lately, I'm here to say it. You are enough. Thanks, Pod Squad.